Senate will come to order. All those not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Those in the gallery and those on the floor will please rise as we're led in prayer today by Pastor Deborah Thomas of the Non-Denominational Fellowship Pentecostal Ministries in Charleston, West Virginia. Please remain standing after the prayer as the senator from Wood leads us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Gracious and eternal God, we thank you for this opportunity again this year to be able to stand and represent the president of this wonderful Senate, the senators, the doorkeepers, the governor and family, the Senate clerk, and their families and staff. And also, God, everybody that is listening to my weak voice. God, we just want to thank you for what you've done already this year. We want to thank you for allowing us and them to travel your dangerous highways every day to be able to represent this wonderful state of West Virginia. God, we thank you for how you have allowed them to remember that when they come together and they have a disagreement, they remember that when they leave this place, they are still senators and representatives of this wonderful state of West Virginia. Now, God, I ask that you continue to watch over their families and their staff and everybody that's in the building, and allow them to be able to do the things that you would have them to do that would be pleasing. God, we continue to pray for world peace. We continue to pray for those who have been sick with the COVID and other viruses. God, we thank you for just covering them and blessing them. And God, as we leave this place, but never from your presence, we thank you. We thank you, we praise you, we lift you up. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Senator from Wood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's all pledge allegiance to the greatest country in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading the journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, Friday, February 25th, 2022. The Senate met at 11:04 a.m. Senator Blair, Mr. President, in the chair.
Senator from Logan requests unanimous consent for further reading the journal is dispensed with and the journal be approved. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Further reading of the journal is dispensed with and the journal is approved. Introduction to guest. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest is the Senator from Brooke, Emily Claire Swingle, Lanham Goins. As guest is the Senator from Summers, Landon Gano. As guest is the Senator from Greenbrier, Zev Knight, Avery Knight, and Alicia Snyder. As guest is the Senator from Harrison, Katie Martin, Zoe Clark, and Sabbath Chapel. As guest is the Senior Senator from the 17th, Mara Winter and Reagan Stapleton. Will the Senate please make them feel very welcome? Further introduction, Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it is your pleasure and mine to introduce our doc of the day. In the rear of the chamber, we have with us Dr. John Apgar. If you wouldn't mind standing, let Senate give you a warm welcome. Mr. President, I also have an announcement in the President's Gallery behind me. We also have the pages from Charleston Catholic High School. Mothers of two of our pages, Mara Winter's mother, Laura Winter, and Reagan Stapleton's mother, Ashley Stapleton. If you two ladies wouldn't mind standing, let Senate give you a warm welcome.
Further introductions. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's your pleasure of mine that in the President's Gallery today, we're joined by the mom of our page, Emily Claire Swingle, and the stepmom of Lanham, a former erstwhile counsel of our Judiciary Committee, Laura Goins. If she could stand, Senate, make her feel welcome.
Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Logan, we're very pleased to have in the South Gallery members of the Morrisville Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Doug Estep and Randy Walls, and the Chief of Alum Creek Volunteer Fire Department, Jim O'Decker. If they would stand, the Senate make them welcome.
Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the great honor to take one half of two introductions here from Putnam County. In the galleries, we have the Hurricane Cheer Team with us today, and we're going to be recognizing them here in just a little bit for their winning the 4A championships here for the region for this past year. And we have several cheerleading teams that are here, but I tell you what, one of the things that makes it such an honor to introduce this team is all the work ethic that goes into going this far when they do this. And it's one of the things that we're here is to create a better future for the people that follow us, and they work so hard to show that they got the work ethic to stand on the shoulders of everybody that came before them to get that done. So proud to introduce them today. Please make them welcome.
Further introductions, Senior Senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of all of the Senate and the Senator from Cabell, I want to make sure that I introduce. This is the last day that these Paul Ambrose Fellows will be with us. Marshall University started a program named after Paul Ambrose, who died in 9/11. Paul Ambrose was a rural health doctor, considered at 32 years old to be a rural health expert, quite honestly, and he died going into the Pentagon. We have the doc of the day was John Apgar, and he is not here with us because he's doing the duties of the doc of the day. He is one of the Paul Ambrose Fellows. This is his last year. Also in his last year is Dr. Ben Wainblatt, if he would stand. And also with him is Dr. Rootman Desagust. If you would stand, let's give them a welcome.
Senator from Summers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have with us seated in the President's Gallery the chaperones of our honorary page from Eastern Greenbrier Middle School, Landon Gano's mother and father, Charles and Sabrina Gano. Would you stand and please let the Senate make you welcome?
Junior Senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the President's Gallery are two of the county commissioners from Senator Blair, my home county, Berkeley County, Dan Dulier and Eddie Gokenauer. And also with us today is Marty Unger with the Grace Recovery Organization, who is John Unger's wife. Thank you for being here.
Senator from Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. As on the behalf of my senior senator from the 4th and yourself, he mentioned that we had one half of Putnam County's national cheerleading teams who went to the Nationals, Hurricane High School in the audience, but we also have the second half of that, which is Winfield High School. I think they're all sitting in the North Gallery. If the Senate would please make them feel welcome.
Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure that we recognize the women of Reimagine the Incarcerated sitting in the South Gallery. Let's make sure they feel welcome. Will y'all please stand? Thank you.
Further introduction, Senator from Harrison.
Mr. President, on behalf of my junior senator from the 12th and you, sir, I'd like to welcome. We have some pages from down in Gilmer and Harrison County today, and Kaylee Martin's mother from Gilmer County is here with us. Ashley, will you stand up wherever you're at? There she is. Also from Liberty High School, Zoe Clark's mother and Sabbath Chappelle's aunt, Tina Clark, are both with us. They're from Liberty and Bridgeport High School. Will you all stand and be recognized? Thank you for bringing them down. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further introductions, Senator from Logan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I sort of had the pleasure of getting these 4 squads down here today, and I want to say a special thanks to Trina down on the West Wing for reaching out to the coaches and getting all these young ladies here. But, Mr. President, it's my understanding all 4 squads had to get out and do all the fundraising to pay for their trip to Orlando to represent West Virginia. And I spoke to the finance chairman. I think it would be really nice if we could find some type of funding mechanism that any athletic, academic, high school goes out of the state to represent the state, that we fund it for them. They shouldn't be out here bumming and doing everything they can to try to pay for their trip. But on behalf of myself and the senator from Boone County, I've got the Logan Wildcats here. If they would stand and the chamber make them welcome. And Mr. President, the way the Logan High School basketball team's going, if you come down to Civic Center here in a few weeks, you'll get to see these young ladies cheer. Thank you.
Further introduction, Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. And last but not least, on behalf of myself, the junior senator from the 17th, and the senior and junior senators from the 18th, we also have our Patriots, girls from GW, also that was one of the cheerleading squads. If you guys wouldn't mind standing and let us give you a warm welcome also.
Senator from Raleigh.
Mr. President, in I think the President's Gallery, we have one of our constituents from Raleigh County, Mike Thomas. Mike, if you're back there, I can't see, but would you please stand? Let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you bear with me, I have 3 introductions today. First, we have seated with us in the President's Gallery on your behalf and on behalf of the Senator from Summers, chaperones of our honorary pages. So from Greenbrier West High School, Alyssa's mom, Christy Snyder, if she'll please stand and the Senate make her welcome, along with Zev and Avery Knight's mother, Sherry Knight from Fayetteville. Will the Senate please make her welcome? And I'd like to ask Alyssa to stand, who is our page. She's already been recognized for being a page, but she also received an award this morning, Mr. President, and so I want to embarrass her for a minute, tell everybody about her good work. Alyssa's a student at Greenbrier West. She's a youth life recovery coach with greater recovery and community empowerment. And this morning, she was awarded the National Youth Life Coach for 2022 for her exceptional work as a youth life recovery coach at her school. She has put in 936 volunteer hours over the last year. Here's a little something she says about her work. As a Grace Youth Life Coach, I've worked towards starting a program of life coaches within my school. Despite the pushback I've received, I've worked to spread awareness and help others. I've coached several peers on my own, as well as used the skills I've learned in my personal relationships. Being a Grace Youth Life Coach has even helped me geared towards my future career path, possibly in clinical counseling. I love the rewarding feeling I get when helping others and want to continue doing that. Will the Senate please make this special young lady feel welcome? Thank you, Mr. President. And last but certainly not least, a friend and constituent from Greenbrier County, if Jennifer Crane will please stand. She's with One Voice. Where's Jennifer? Is she not here? Is she over here? I can't see over here. Nope. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the rear gallery today, we have Judy Utley and my friend Christy Walker. Judy is a peer support specialist for Community Care of West Virginia. She provides support to countless people on their journey through recovery. In fact, Judy is on her journey of recovery in her 25th year. If the members, if you all would stand, please, and if the members would please make them welcome. Thank you.
Further introductions. Communications from the House.
There are none.
Communications from the Executive.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 223 relating to procedure to settle descendants' estates and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill the first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 223 relating to procedure to settle descendants' estates. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 266, adding definition of ammunition for purposes of obtaining state license to carry concealed deadly weapon, and reports back a committee substitute for same, and Senate Bill 413, clarifying crime of stalking, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the two committee substitutes do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bills be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 266, adding definition of ammunition for purposes of obtaining state license to carry concealed deadly weapon. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 413, clarifying crime of stalking. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 422 relating to DNA data maintained for law enforcement purposes and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but with the further recommendation that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 422 relating to DNA data maintained for law enforcement purposes. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced. Notes. Bill be advanced. Senator from Oregon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 422 be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 606 relating to West Virginia Medical Practice Act and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 606 be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 606 relating to West Virginia Medical Practice Act. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 610 relating to duties, powers, and responsibilities of DOT Secretary and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 610 relating to duties, powers, and responsibilities of DOT Secretary. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 645 regulating private schools for students with disabilities and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Puertas Rucker, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 645 regulating private schools for students with disabilities. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to waive the second reference to this committee. Unanimous consent to waive the second reference to the Committee on Finance. It has no fiscal impact on the state.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 647 prohibiting discrimination in organ donation process and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute for committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 647 prohibiting discrimination in organ donation process. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 659 relating to non-intoxicating beer, wine, and liquor licenses and requirements, and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 659 relating to non-intoxicating beer, wine, and liquor licenses and requirements. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 687 relating to meetings among county boards of education and Senate Bill 711 establishing alternative educational opportunities for elective course credit and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Puertas Rucker, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 687 and Senate Bill 711 be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will read the bill first time.
Senate Bill 687 relating to meetings among county boards of education. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced.
Senate Bill 711 establishing alternative educational opportunities for elective course credit. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 726, originating in committee, relating to pretrial diversion agreements and deferred prosecution agreements generally, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and read a first time.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the bill first time.
Senate Bill 726, relating to pretrial diversion agreements and deferred prosecution agreements generally. First reading of the bill.
Bill will be advanced.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4426, repealing Article 3325G1 et sec, creating provider-sponsored networks, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Respectfully submitted, Michael T. Azinger, Chair.
Report will be received, and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills.
There are none.
Resolutions.
Senate Resolution 43 by Senator Takubo, recognizing West Virginia respiratory therapists during the month of March.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day.
Senate Resolution 44 by Senator Geffert, recognizing Leadership Jefferson.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day.
Senate Resolution 45 by Senators Takubo and Baldwin, designating month of March as American Red Cross Month.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day. Motions, petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 53, requesting Office of Miners Health Safety and Training study need for Health Safety and Training Division in energy-producing facilities.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? If not, the question is on adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Senate Resolution 22, commemorating 250th anniversary of Berkeley County.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? Senator from Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution. I have to say, I ask the members of the Senate to think a little bit about the length of time we're talking about. Before there was a West Virginia, there was a Berkeley County. In fact, before there was a United States of America, there was Berkeley County. And Berkeley County is a special place. As all the members know, so we worked through the arduous process of redistricting this year. We saw that Berkeley County is a county that's been growing fast in West Virginia for some time. It's now West Virginia's second largest county, adding tens of thousands of people in every decennial census. I like to think that people are moving to Berkeley County because of the special people who are already there, including two members of this body, our president, a resident of Berkeley County, and the junior senator from the 16th, a resident of Berkeley County, represent the goodness and the industry of the people who are residents there. The senior senator from the 16th and I had the honor and pleasure of representing different parts of Berkeley County. It's so big it has to be divided between Senate districts with 122,000 people now. We're honored today to have two members of the Berkeley County Council with us in the President's Gallery. The growth in Berkeley County that's been occurring for some time, as you know, Mr. President, presents special challenges there. Berkeley County's council, they're called the council, not the commission, has 5 members, and some really talented people who are working very hard to try to meet the needs of that growing community there in Berkeley County. My home county of Morgan was formed from part of Berkeley County, as was the home county of the senior senator from the 16th. Jefferson County was formed from part of Berkeley County. After it became a county in West Virginia, Mr. President, 250 years ago. I think it's appropriate that we take this moment and honor this wonderful place that two of our members call home, and I urge adoption of the resolution.
So further discussion? Senator from Jefferson.
Thank you. I will make this quick. I feel blessed to be able to participate and to represent part of Berkeley County. One small little bit of history that was not in the Senator from Oregon's remarks, but I did mention it here in this body in 2018. The name Berkeley came from Norbon Berkeley, the fourth Baron of Bodetort. In 1717. And I also noted back then about the strong growth, and that if projections hold, Berkeley County will surpass Kanawha County in the middle of the next decade. So very happy to be able to celebrate this anniversary with them and celebrate the rich history that Berkeley County has.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Monongalia.
Yes, sir. This may surprise many of you, and I'm sure the two across the way. As many of us do right now, we get into genealogy, and my wife is no exception. And just this past summer, she had discovered our roots in Berkeley County, dating back to 1730, where Morgan Bryan and a Quaker by the name of Alexander Ross convinced the lieutenant governor at that time of the Virginia Council to grant them 100,000 acres for a new settlement. Bryan, my ancestor, would manage one part, which is now located in Berkeley County, in present-day Berkeley County, while his partner would take on the other part, which actually was located in Pennsylvania. And my family was in land speculation all those years, including North Carolina, but there's a connection there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? If not, question for the Senate, shall the resolution pass? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted.
Senate Resolution 41, designating February 28th, 2022 as Recovery Community Day.
Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 41, designating February 28th, 2022 as Recovery Community Day.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor to stand in support of this resolution. Last year, 1,600 West Virginians died of overdoses in our state. You know, that's a tough number to swallow when you think about it. And the folks up in the gallery to my left have dedicated their lives for free in search of a solution. We search for a solution all the time, but we can't seem to find one to this scourge. 1 in 13 children between the ages of 12 to 18 have an addiction issue. 1 in 7 between 18 and 25. We've already lost a generation. We see it in our schools. We see it in children who have no parents and are forced into the system. But these folks are trying to make a difference. My first brush with recovery coaches was from our friend John Unger. He invited me down to Clay County in my district. And I asked him, I said, John, what are you doing in my district? He said, recovery coaches. And I went out, if you've ever been to Clay County, it's a tough place to get around, and I was on a back road at a little community center, no bigger than junior rules, and I walk in and it's packed. And there's John leading the charge, teaching these folks how to deal with people with addiction, trying to get them to help them, trying to stop this scourge, trying to deal with the death in their families and help others deal with it, trying to help them with understanding, mentorship, and most of all, hope, while we search for a solution. Today, recovery coaches in West Virginia number 2,000, with only over 35,000 in donated hours to help our citizens. Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'd like to recognize a few important people this year, if they'll stand when I call their name. The 2022 Recovery Coaches of the Year, Alicia Snyder. Please stand. Jan Haffer, Raven Hill, and if I chop this one up, I apologize, Ahisha Marshall. If you all will please stand. Also, we have the Sean Combs Facilitators of the Years, Andy Johnston, Rain Bannister, and Brandy Bannister. If they're in the crowd, please stand. Mr. President, I stand in full support of this resolution. Thank you, sir.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question is on adoption of the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted.
Senate Resolution 42, recognizing 911 public safety telecommunicators as true first responders.
Junior Senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 42, recognizing 911 public safety telecommunicators as true first responders.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? Junior Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. All too often when we think of first responders, we think of our heroic EMS, our firefighters, and police officers. But the 911 operators that take the call are just as brave. They handle the call and walk people through providing CPR and other life-saving techniques to the person on the other end. They take the call and try to calm the other person down on the other end. And in so doing, they perform not just a job when it comes to dispatch and to get those first responders I alluded to already immediately to the scene, but they share that burden. They share that responsibility. And with this resolution, what we are doing is we are recognizing their efforts. Here in Kanawha County, they take over 500,000 calls. And they also take calls for surrounding counties that are overburdened and undermanned. I thank you, Mr. President, for this resolution, and I ask for its adoption.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Summers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of this resolution, having spent my previous government career in county government and spent several nights in 911 during disasters. You cannot begin to understand the stress that goes with that job. It's an extremely important job, and they work under very difficult circumstances, and I urge adoption.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 71, prohibiting political subdivisions from enacting certain ordinances, regulations, local policies, or other legal requirements. Third reading of the bill. The bill is advanced to third reading with the right to amend.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Weld moved to amend the bill on page 3, section 4.
Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. My bill adds a new subsection, or my amendment, a new subsection to the bill, subsection F, that states that if any provision of the article of the bill that we have before us is going to jeopardize federal grant and aid funds or any other federal allotment of money, the provisions of that article will be deemed to be inoperative. We started to think about this issue with, in particular, the city of Wellsburg, where I'm the city attorney. Right now we have a massive water line system repair project going on, actually replace the whole system. It's a FEMA project. As a result, we're required to pay federal prevailing wage on that project. And so we have to pass an ordinance to ensure that that happens. And so my amendment is meant to ensure and clarify that that still occurs when we have federal projects like that. I'm happy to answer any questions and request or propose that the amendment is adopted. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment offered by the senator from Brooke. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be re-engrossed. Question now is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 71 would amend our state code by creating a new article, and it would be designated as Article 5J of Chapter 21, and it would have 4 new sections of code in it. Section 1 is a short title, which names the act the Local Government Labor and Consumer Marketing Regulatory Limitation Act. Section 2 contains definitions. Section 3 is the operative language of the bill. This is similar to legislation we passed in the last couple years, not exactly like it, but very similar. Those bills have met ignominious fate in the House of Delegates. But what this bill purports to do, Mr. President, is to say that there are certain matters, and most of them relate to labor relations, but there's, I'll talk about some others here in a second, certain matters where the rules should be the same for everyone across the entire state. So it relates largely to labor management relations, employer-employee relations, but also standards and requirements regarding the sale or marketing of consumer merchandise. And finally, the regulation of standards of care, conduct, or licensing fees for professions that are regulated or licensed by the state of West Virginia. So in terms of labor relations, which is the gravamen of the bill, what the bill says is that no city, no county can have or impose its own minimum wage in that city or county. The state minimum wage is the minimum wage for everybody in the state of West Virginia. The city or county, a political subdivision, cannot impose its own prevailing wage. It cannot impose or purport to regulate work stoppages or the right of employees to organize, or the manner in which they organize, or fringe benefits, paid or unpaid leave time requirements for employees within a city or municipality, etc. Then we get to the regulation of standards regarding the marketing and sale of consumer merchandise. So this bill, I believe, if enacted into law, would prohibit a city from banning the 24-ounce big gulp drinks or banning plastic straws, as I believe one municipality in the state tried to do previously. Finally, subsection 9 of section 3 says that cities cannot regulate the standards of care, conduct, or licensing fees for professions. So if a person is licensed, Mr. President, as a plumber by the state, the city can't say, or a county can't say, we don't care about your state license. You can't practice your trade or craft or profession in this county unless you do these other things that we require and nobody else does. So the point of this bill is to say that for certain things, minimum wages, prevailing wages, marketing of consumer goods or services, professional licensures, the rules should be the same throughout the state of West Virginia for everyone. The final section of the bill provides exceptions, and we recognize that there are exceptions. There are exceptions for zoning ordinances that the cities and counties have the authority to adopt. There are exceptions for municipal solid waste or recycling collection programs, exceptions for the employees of the political subdivision. So a city or a county can pay its employees as it chooses. It just can't regulate the minimum wage of what private employers doing business in the city are doing. And finally, subsection E says nothing in the article is construed to prohibit or limit compliance with the West Virginia Alcohol Drug-Free Workplace Act. And then, of course, the amendment that was just adopted, offered by the senator from Brooke, that makes it clear that we're standing down, the provisions of this stand down when there are federal requirements that apply. We don't want any city or county to be jeopardized in its receipt of federal funds. Be happy to try to answer any questions, Mr. President. I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there a discussion? Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the Senator from Oregon yield?
Senator from Oregon yields. The senator yields.
Senator, I meant to tell you, I don't know, a week ago or so, how eloquent I thought your remarks were on the commemoration of the birthday of what I think to be the greatest president, Abraham Lincoln.
Well, thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, Lincoln, in fact, is credited to be as being the founder of the Republican Party. Is that right?
Well, he was certainly the first Republican president. I think John C. Fremont and others, I don't know that he's regarded as the founder of the party, but by being the first president and in our joint judgment, the country's greatest president, he certainly gave it a brand.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to correct my grandfather, George Wolfel, who was a Republican committeeman in West Huntington, and that's what he told me on his knee, that he may not have used the word founder, but he was a lifelong Republican, as were basically everybody in the Wolfel family. So
not everybody. Although
some
we would love to have you.
Can we get back to the bill?
All right, thank you. So anyway, so I'm very curious about what you have against and what maybe some other Republicans have against paper straws. What's the point? You mentioned that earlier. What is the problem with paper straws?
I don't know that it's a problem specifically with paper straws. What I think this bill tries to address is the notion that we should not have a hodgepodge across this state of what's legal, what's not legal in the context of consumer goods. Now, we do carve out an exception in here for tobacco products. That was added into the bill. But the idea is that people engaged in business, both from labor side and the employer side, and people engaged in retail enterprise in West Virginia should be able to count on a uniform standard set of rules that are going to apply across the state.
Well, I thought I remembered learning when I was a child from my grandfather, the Republican, that local government is best to address local issues. And I remember him being against Roosevelt and the far-reaching effects of the Roosevelt administration. And if he were around now, he would not like what Washington, D.C. is doing by creeping into our homes and our communities and overreaching. And some people don't think that the state legislature needs to be reaching in to people's homes and their communities because they know what's best. So by banning paper straws here, and that's an example that you raised a minute ago, so we can't just ignore it, why in the world aren't we for local government today? Why is the state going to be in charge of dictating what's best for my local community?
So for me personally, and I would not presume to answer for anybody other than me, others may have different reasons for supporting this sort of legislation, but we have retailers that do business across the whole state, some in cities, some outside of cities and counties. I think it's important that there be uniformity and a level playing field.
Well, would you agree that we're reaching into the community where I live and where these other folks live and dictating to them whether they can have big gulps or not have big gulps, paper straws, or whatever the issue is? Would you agree that this is an example of the state government dictating rules to the local government? Would you agree with that?
It would be disingenuous of me not to agree with that. That's what this bill does. It preempts local governmental regulation in some areas. That's exactly what it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator from Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a 28-year school teacher, 20 of which I taught history, a thing that I always taught my students, one was accurate, but not always accurate, so it was easy to remember, that the United States obviously is the sovereign nation here, but that states retain much sovereignty not given to the federal government, because their sovereignty is separate from that of the nation. But, and I would always say, in counties and states and cities and states are similar, but not completely that way. Because unlike states, which are not creatures of the nation, counties and towns are creatures of the state in which they exist. I may or may not like a particular thing that some town may do, but the state has a right to tell them that, in my opinion.
Is there further discussion? If not, Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. You were a little quick there. I'm not that quick in my old age. 8 years ago, I was a little faster. Will the gentleman from Morgan yield one more time?
Senator from Morgan yield. Senator apparently yields.
Senator, thank you. And this is about local control, and I think the gentleman from Cabell fleshed that out pretty good. I see some flaws in this bill that really bother me, and one of them is, you know, and I'm going to talk about here in a second, the desire for uniformity, but if I'm a local community and I, for example, want to limit the distance of adult bookstores from schools and churches, I can't do that under here, can I, unless there's no contrary state law?
I think I disagree with that. We provide in the bill, zoning ordinances are exempted, fully exempted. So a zoning ordinance that would establish where certain types of businesses can be is completely exempted from this operation of this bill.
They could be in the form of something other than a zoning ordinance. If there's no zoning in the city, they could have a specific ordinance on the adult bookstore. You think that would still apply?
I would say that's a zoning ordinance. If you're saying that a certain kind of business has to be in this certain geographic area of a city or a county, that is what our zoning ordinances under Chapter 8 empower those political subdivisions to do. There are a few counties, not many, that have adopted countywide zoning ordinances. I know Jefferson has one. I think Fayette used to.
Most counties don't, but
most counties do not. Senator's correct, and I think many municipalities do.
So just to be clear then, for the record, for the legislative intent, any restriction on the location of a business such as an adult bookstore could be limited by the county, municipality, or political subdivision, even if they don't have zoning ordinances.
No, well, I think that is essentially what a zoning ordinance is. I mean, I think they could do it under a zoning ordinance.
And again, counties have to adopt zoning, so would counties be able to do that with no zoning, no ability to levy zoning ordinances otherwise? Okay,
so you're into a nuanced area of law that I don't have a whole lot of expertise in, but I do know that under Chapter 8, both counties and municipalities have the authority to adopt zoning ordinances. There are some prerequisites. They have to have a comprehensive plan, that sort of thing. But I think any county that chooses to go that route or municipality has the authority to make a zoning ordinance.
That's a huge issue up where I'm from, because zoning is something most people don't want in the county, and therefore they're never going to do the things you just described. So would a county without a zoning ordinance be able to restrict the location of an adult bookstore from a church or school? I don't think so.
You're asking a question that honestly I don't know a definitive answer to. What I would say is that I don't think this bill preempts whatever authority they have to do that.
But they would have to adopt zoning. They'd have to meet the requirements of Chapter 8.
I don't know if that's the only mechanism that they have available to them to follow to get to that result.
Me either, but thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, with your permission, you know, this is the third or fourth year this bill's come through. We've shoved it through every time. You know, and no matter how you paint it, this bill's about local control. And if I remember right, when the majority was on the other side, that was one of the things my friends across the aisle used to get up and stand and talk about all the time. Local control. I've heard many of my friends in here talk about states' rights and stopping the federal government from intruding on our ability to govern our own state. I've heard many people get up and yell the word freedom, because it's about freedom. It's about to be able to control your own destiny in your own hometown and your own house. And you know what we're taking away from every citizen in West Virginia? Their right to elect their local leaders. Because if a local leader bans a plastic straw or a big gulp, which I think is silly, at least the big gulp part, I understand plastic straws a little better, you can vote them out. A little harder to vote any more than one or two of us out. And if you're from a local town, you really can't do it if you're the one being affected. It is about freedom. It's about freedom to make the laws that govern you and your neighbors, or not to have any of those laws. And here we are again. This has been shot down so many times in the House, but we're going to give them another shot. And we're not even sure how it affects a county's ability to limit the location of something as obtrusive as adult bookstores next to a school or a daycare center. Little kids walking down the street looking in the window. We can't keep that a reasonable distance away from those facilities if that's our desire in my little location somewhere in West Virginia. You know, I've said it many times, if hypocrisy was fuel, we would have ended the fuel crisis a decade ago. This is another example. I urge a no vote on this bill, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk close machine ascertain the results on this question. 22 yeas, 11 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has the title amendment.
Senator Weld moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 420 relating to distribution of certain taxes and surcharges to benefit volunteer and part volunteer fire departments. Third reading of the bill. The bill is advanced to third reading with the right to amend.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 420 resolves conflicting language in code regarding the state treasurer's quarterly distribution of the Fire Protection Fund to volunteer fire departments. The fund comes from several different sources, and the accompanying code differs on whether the proceeds are to be distributed equally to all departments or reduced to part volunteer departments. The bill clarifies that all distributions are to include a reduction to part volunteer departments regardless of the source of the funds. That aspect of the bill was recommended as an interim bill by the Joint Committee on Volunteer Fire Departments and EMS. Senate Bill 420 also raises the policy surcharge on fire and casualty policies in the state from 0.055% to 1%. The revenue from that increase will be included in Fire Protection Fund distributions. As a result, each of the approximately 427 volunteer fire departments in the state will receive an annual increase in its distribution of about $27,000. Mr. President, our fire departments are hurting and need funding for their equipment needs and various things. This will be a good addition to help them continue to protect their community. I'll take questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Boone.
Also rise in support of this bill. This is the first time we've really put any new funding toward their volunteer fire departments, and they've been struggling, closing, and this is a great first step to stabilizing our volunteer fire departments and their ability to hold down our insurance rates. Nearly 90% of the fires, that's my understanding, are combated by the volunteer fire department system. And I applaud the work on this, and I certainly hope when it goes to the House and comes back, or if it goes to the House, it's passed as is, instead of coming back some night without the added money in it. I urge adoption.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Harrison?
Yeah, Mr. President, I feel obligated to stand only because this is a bill that I've been a part of trying to get through, not this particular bill, but trying to raise this surge charge for years. I applaud leadership for getting it on the agenda, and my friend who was the lead sponsor on the bill. We're finally going to do something to help preserve our volunteer fire departments. And my friend from Boone's correct, 80% of the firefighting capability in West Virginia is volunteer fire departments. And if we lose them, you'll lose your homeowner's insurance. And if you can get it, it'll cost you 4 and 5 times what it cost you today. This is a good first step, Mr. President, and thanks you to leadership for getting it through.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine. Ascertain the results on this question. 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be made effective July 1, 2022. Request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves the bill be made effective July the 1st, 2022, and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than 2/3 of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective July the 1st, 2022. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 466 relating to limitations on civil actions or appeals brought by inmates. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 466 was brought to us by the executive branch. It would amend a single section of the state code. It's Chapter 25, Article 1A, Section 9. I say amend, that's incorrect. It would create a new section within that article to be designated as Section 9. Article 1A is the West Virginia Prisoner Litigation Reform Act. And so what this bill says is just one new section with 3 subsections. It says that if a prisoner has filed suits 3 times while incarcerated or detained in a correctional facility, that have been determined in the courts of this state to have been frivolous, malicious, or have failed to state a claim upon which any relief may be granted, then when the inmate files his next suit, he or she cannot proceed in forma pauperis. In other words, that means he can't file the suit without paying the filing fee that everyone else has to pay to file a lawsuit, absent a court order. So the bill does allow for a court order to allow the inmate to file without paying the filing fee in that circumstance. And there's also an exception that applies if the claim alleges that the inmate is in imminent danger of a serious injury. The bill also accepts from any of the application of these provisions petitions for a writ of habeas corpus. Mr. President, be happy to try to answer questions. Urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 31 yeas, 1 nay, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 522, combining offices of West Virginia State Americans with Disability Act and West Virginia Equal Employment Opportunity. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This committee substitute comes to us from the executive, and it combines the offices of the West Virginia State Americans with Disability Act Office and the West Virginia Equal Employment Opportunity Office within the Department of Administration. It creates the position of State Equal Opportunity Coordinator and establishes qualification criteria, the selection process, and scope of responsibilities for this position. By consolidating these positions, the state would save $78,000 per year. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 536, relating generally to controlled substance criminal offenses. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another governor's bill. The committee substitute would provide a more punitive form of imprisonment and fines for instances when controlled substance is fentanyl, whether alone or in combination with any other controlled substance. It also creates 4 new criminal offenses related to fentanyl-specific crimes. The monetary fine for those convicted of these fentanyl-related offenses increases to $50,000, and the minimum sentence is now no less than 3 years. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Logan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Guys, I'm tired of losing friends and family members. This is our chance to cut the snake's head off and end it. It's only the first step. We've got many steps to do. But you know, Logan County has a program in place called Pieces. The surrounding counties, it's my understanding, don't have a program. But Logan County leads my surrounding counties in overdoses and deaths. I'm tired of losing friends. Please vote for this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to add my voice to those who are rising in support of the passage of this legislation. And I want to compliment Governor Justice. This is a governor's bill, and the governor spoke about this in his State of the State speech. And fentanyl is what's ravaging many communities and families in West Virginia. I know we need to move things along, but I want to tell a short story, if I may, Mr. President. A couple years ago, Judge Coey in the Eastern Panhandle, Bridget Coey is one of the circuit judges there, and she runs a juvenile drug court. And she invited me to come in to the juvenile drug court. I'd never had a case that was where I had a client in juvenile drug court, but I was interested in seeing its operation. And as an aside, right now, I will say that I bet any of the members of this body who haven't been to one, if you contact one of your local circuit judges where they have a juvenile drug court, I bet they would let you come in and see. It's fascinating. It's very intensive. They take these juveniles, their families have to come to court. They have court every week. And they are really intensely in the business of these juveniles with the idea being to lift them out of addiction. So here's the point of the story that I wanted to tell that has caused me to lose sleep. It's kept me up at night. Judge Coey told me She said, Charlie, whenever we have these kids, we drug test them. We drug test them every week. And I always ask them before we test them, we're going to test you, are you going to test positive for anything? And the kids invariably say, just marijuana. You know, as if just marijuana is not something that they need to worry about. But the point is this. Judge Coey told me that an alarmingly high number of the drug test results come back on these kids positive for marijuana and fentanyl. And she said, and I suspect she's right, she says, Charles, these kids don't realize. They don't realize they're getting fentanyl in their marijuana. They don't think they're, you know, involved with fentanyl, but it's laced into the marijuana they get. And so one of the things we should just observe about this bill, it contains a new offense defining the offense of adulteration. So it's a new offense in the law in this bill to adulterate another controlled substance using fentanyl as an adulterant, or to create a counterfeit or imitation substance using fentanyl. I've heard stories about that too, where fentanyl gets shaped to make it look like a OxyContin pill or something like that. And of course, as everyone here knows, fentanyl has a lethality. It's lethal and way beyond, you know, more powerful than heroin. The law also includes a new offense, a new section that makes it a felony for anybody to use a minor to try to distribute, dispense, manufacture, possess controlled substances. So I want to compliment the governor again and the work of the Judiciary Committee in crafting this committee substitute. As the senator from Logan said, this is designed to be something that will be a real tool and a real deterrent, ramping up criminal penalties all surrounding fentanyl. I urge passage.
Further discussion, Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, like my friend from Logan, am tired of seeing the devastation in my community and what this addiction problem has done to our state and our country. But this bill did give me pause, and I want to say this publicly because I do not think we can arrest our way out of a drug problem. I do not think we can arrest our way out of a drug problem. And I had real reservations about supporting this bill in committee, and I still have those reservations today. I'm going to vote yes, but only because I talked to the Secretary and I talked to the Secretary's counsel, and they assured me that this bill will help them go after the head of the snake, which is what my friend, the senator from Logan, alluded to, because we had a young lady who testified in our committee very eloquently, Mr. President, former addict who had concerns about this bill because she was arrested with possession with the intent to deliver as well. It's a very easy charge, from what I'm told, for prosecutors to lay on a user. So I just want to be on the record, Mr. President, for saying I'm going to take the word of the Secretary, I'm going to take the word of his general counsel, that this bill will give us the tool to go after the head of that snake, and I hope I don't see a bunch of arrests from users because of this piece of legislation. I will be a yes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion, Senator from Summers, followed by the Senator from Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As many of you know, in my other life, I'm a funeral director. When I'm working, very few weeks go by that I don't see multiple fatalities related to this drug. But I want to bring your attention to the worst week I had. This was in a 3-county area. There were 54 people that died with fentanyl-laced heroin overdoses. That's 54 people in 3 counties in southern West Virginia. Just want to bring that to your attention and urge passage.
Senator from Mason.
Mr. President, I request unanimous consent that the remarks made by the Senator from Logan and the Senator from Summers be placed in the appendix to the journal, please.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the scene. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 574 relating to West Virginia PEIA.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill over 1 day while retaining its place on the calendar.
There's an objection. Chair hears none. So ordered.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 582 creating West Virginia Workforce Resiliency Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Greenbrier.
Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent for the right to amend on third reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Does the clerk have an amendment?
Yes, sir. Senator Baldwin moved to amend the bill by striking out everything after the enacting clause.
Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate your indulgence. I appreciate the body's indulgence in this. This amendment will allow us to put one person in charge of substance use recovery statewide at the same time as we put one person in charge of workforce resiliency or workforce training statewide. I think it's important because these two issues are intimately related to one another. Recovery efforts directly tie into workforce efforts and vice versa. If we have a problem with a road, we know who to call. There's somebody in charge of roads. If we have a problem with a school, we know who to call. There's somebody in charge of schools. If there's a problem in substance use recovery, who do we call? Who's in charge? That's a difficult question to answer. This would change that. This would put one person in charge. There is no cost to doing so. We passed this bill 34-0 last year with your support, Mr. President, with the governor's support. And so today on Recovery Day, I think this is an opportunity for all of us as a body to send a strong message that recovery is real and we're making structural changes to increase our positive efforts across the state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the amendment.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question is on adoption of the amendment offered by the Senator from Greenbrier. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be re-engrossed. The question now is on passage of the bill. Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 582 is a governor's bill that promotes workforce development, job training, and education by creating within the Office of the Governor the Workforce Resiliency Office. This new office is under the direction of the appointed Workforce Resiliency Officer. We'll work with all agencies and entities within the state to create a more efficient coordination system to develop, implement, and manage programs and initiatives related to workforce development. The office will advise the governor regarding all matters related to workforce and will propose future legislation for this body to consider. This bill centralizes information among various agencies and entities which otherwise might not know that resources are available from some other agency or entity and makes for a more effective statewide workforce development effort. I'm happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has the title amendment.
Senator Baldwin moved to amend the title of the bill.
The question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 603, prohibiting licensure and relicensure in West Virginia if applicant is prohibited from practicing in another jurisdiction. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this bill simply provides that the West Virginia Board of Medicine shall not issue an initial license, reinstate a license, or reactivate a license to any individual whose license has been revoked, suspended, surrendered, or deactivated in other states based upon conduct which is substantially equivalent to an act of unprofessional conduct until reinstatement of the license in the other state has been provided. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senator from Brooke. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 638, changing hearing and notice provisions for failing or distressed public utilities. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 638 amends a single section of the code. The bill would allow Public Service Commission hearings to determine if a utility is failing or distressed to be held in or near the utility service area to accommodate situations where a suitable place cannot be found within the service area itself. The bill also removes the requirement that a legal advertisement be run within 10 days of the hearing, instead allowing the ad to be run reasonably close to the date of the hearing. The bill was requested by the PSC to provide needed flexibility in its notice and hearing requirements, especially regarding rural utilities. I'll entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 648 relating to cable television systems.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill lie over 1 day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 698 relating to number and selection of members for Governor's Veterans Council. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Brooke.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 698 deals with the Governor's Veterans Council. The first thing that it does is it increases the membership of this council from 9 members to 11, and it also puts a new emphasis on the council, which would be that we have diversity among all the branches of the military. Previously, the council dealt with those who have served in foreign conflicts, but as the number of those foreign conflicts the veterans of those foreign conflicts in the state have diminished in size, we're now going to adjust it to reflect current realities of our veteran population. And lastly, it also requires that those who are going to serve on the council are active with local veteran service organizations and their communities as well. And one other thing, Mr. President, is that as a result of us going from 3 to 2 congressional districts, what we did is that we said that of the 13-member council or 11-member council, that there won't be more than a majority of just one of any of our 2 congressional districts. I'm happy to answer any questions and urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine. Ascertain the results on this question. 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage. On question unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
The Senior Senator from the 17th moves the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there an objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting. More than 2/3 of those elected to the Senate having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 701, including children and spouses of deceased active duty officers and eligibility for War Orphan Education Program. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 701 corrects some language in our War Orphan Education Program. Currently, as it's written, the program is available only to those deceased members of the military who happen to be enlisted members. This makes the change and opens it up to children of those who are also commissioned officers in the military as well. Happy to answer any questions. I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Senator from Brooke. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine. Ascertain the results on this question. 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House. Hey, pause. Pause. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in recess until 5 p.m.
Are there announcements? Senator from Brooke.
Have everybody's announcements for this afternoon's meetings. Your Committee on Education will be meeting in room 451M at 1 o'clock. Your Committee on Government Organization will be meeting in room 208 West at 1 o'clock. Follow that up, your Committee on the Finance will be meeting in 451M at 2 o'clock. And your Committee on the Judiciary will be meeting at 2 o'clock in 208 West. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Wetzel.
Mr. President, I might as well announce tomorrow morning's Transportation Infrastructure Council will meet tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We have on the agenda 61 bridge resolutions, 16 road naming resolutions, 1 resolution for an intersection, and 1 for a waterfall on tomorrow morning's project. 10 o'clock in the finance office room. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Brooke.
One more. Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Military will be meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. in room 208 West. Thank you.
Further announcements? If not, the Senior Senator from 17 moves that we recess till 5 p.m. today. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We're in recess till 5 p.m. today.
There's already money in the system, but we're not putting any additional money into for this program.
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Money's already there.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, may I speak to the bill?
Gentlelady is recognized.
Okay, thank you. Just one little story. Not so long ago, I was student teaching in a middle school in Cameron, West Virginia. And I had a child who was in my 7th grade classroom who was disruptive, let's say. I moved him from the class table and set him by himself for a minute while I got the students started on their work, and then I met with him. And I very quickly learned that the issue was he couldn't read. He couldn't read, so he couldn't do the work. Can you imagine being in the 7th grade, not being able to read and not being able to keep up with your classmates? And I think about him routinely. I wonder where he is. I wonder how he's doing. We already have, I know, because he was in an inclusive classroom, so he was in a special ed program where the teacher, a special ed teacher, was in the classroom with me, with the regular ed teacher. I know that he was taken out for testing, special. I know that our grade schools, because I volunteer there, have interventionists that help with these students who have issues. And they have Title I programs in some of our lowest income schools to help with reading. So we do a lot already in this area. I also have a daughter who's dyslexic. Has dyslexia. She would kill me for saying that. Has dyslexia, because you never identify the child as what their issue is, but that they have that problem, right? So I know that what we went through as a child with her, that we had to pull her out of a school, put her in a private school where she got 90 minutes of intensive reading instruction every day. And we also got her tutored all summer for years. And she had to have a tutor throughout her school. Now, she would have had a dual diagnosis of having a learning disability as well as being gifted. She has graduated from a college, has a master's degree, and is working on her second master's degree. So she was a bright kid, but she had a problem reading. We couldn't get those services that were needed. But my major problem with this bill is not that we don't need these services, we can't put one more thing on the teachers in West Virginia. We have 1,200 vacancies right now. We have over 500 teachers in our system that aren't certified to teach. And we wonder why we have problems? What are we going to do to fix that problem? What are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? We have to get to the root. We can't just add one more thing to their day. It doesn't work. They can't get substitutes to take care of the students that are there. Half the teachers don't even get to eat a lunch now. They don't have planning periods because they have to watch other classrooms because we don't have enough substitutes. When are we going to deal with those issues? So for all of those reasons, and because our school systems just can't take any more, I'll be voting no, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 13th, Delegate Kraus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pulled both ways on this bill, and this comes from a mom. I've had 2 children, both with, I have 5, but 2 of my children both have dyslexia. One went through the public school system, and one I've homeschooled the whole time. One was the state probably spent $200,000 to educate him over 13 years, and I've probably spent about $10,000 educating my daughter by the time she graduates. And the school system, while my son was in it, was happy with him graduating on a 5th grade learning level or reading level. This happened, he happened to be 5th grade reading level while he was in middle school. I spent time and money outside of the school system to bring him up to a little over a 7th grade reading level to get him into high school reading at that level. He graduated after 4 years of high school reading at that same level because they didn't implement the IEP the way they should. And I was an involved parent. I was there all the time. I made sure, that the IEP was in effect, and it still didn't happen. And then comes my daughter, and she has she doesn't have an IEP. We have an individualized education plan because we homeschool. So kindergarten, she wasn't reading, and it was a fight, and we kind of walked away from it. And we waited until she was ready to start reading, about second grade, about halfway through second grade. So by third grade, she was still not reading on grade level. With this bill, she would have been held back in school. Now, she just finished up, she's in 10th grade now. Just when she finished up 9th grade, I finally tested her for the first time in reading comprehension and reading, because we took our time and took a different approach than what the school system had. She was reading and had a reading comprehension of post-high school level with dyslexia, which shows me that what the school system is doing, it's a systematic problem. It's not each child is individual, and they need to do something different. And holding those kids back is going to do nothing but make them feel stupid, like my son felt all the way through school. My daughter has never had that feeling because she hasn't had to live up to a grade level standard until she was ready to get to that place. And we were able to work one-on-one with her to get her where she needed to be. What needs to happen is the school system needs to change the way they're doing things. Let the teachers get back to actually teaching instead of worrying about these standardized testing, worrying about grade levels for kids. Let kids who are individual on every single level in their life learn on those different levels instead of pinholing them into a certain grade level. And I think we'll start making some changes and seeing some changes when we enable that within our school systems too. I'm torn on this vote, and I don't know which way to go. I don't want to see kids held back, but at the same time, I don't want to see them not knowing how to read. And then again, at the same time, I watched my son go all the way through school, and a special education teacher who was over the county when he was graduating congratulated me because he was reading on a 7th grade level that I got him at, because as she said, most adults only read on a 5th grade level, and that was excellent that he was doing so well. So I don't think it's a problem that we're going to be able to fix by keeping kids held back. We need to change a lot more than that. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 16th, Delegate Hornbuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, today I rise because I'm going to cautiously support this bill, very cautiously. The reason I use that word is the general lady from the 4th, the gentleman from the 43rd, they laid out some very, very good points. First of all, with the teachers in the classroom, it's awfully hard to put yet something else on their plate, to have to be able to manage, to be able to administer that education to our children. And I understand that. And I would also encourage this body, we need to be putting forth legislation to make sure that we're expanding their time that they have to plan. We need to do that. Also, resources. While we found out there's about $5.7 million that's already in the budget for this, I do think that we need to add resources to make sure that we can actually carry out and implement this plan. That's very important. But then when it goes back to supporting, and I think about what we're supposed to do in here, and I feel like this bill is a piece of compromise. Again, this bill first started out that it was going to automatically mandate that these kids be retained. And we knew that, as a gentleman from the 10th said, 60% approximately for reading would have been held back. Approximately 72% for math would have been held back. And caring about our teachers, well, that was going to overcrowd the classrooms, and they weren't going to be able to do their job that way. And then I think about the gentleman from the 32nd, talking about a piece of legislation that ties in our parents in a more profound way. And I think that while, again, cautiously, because we probably and might put an extra burden on our teachers are pretty darn good. They've already got an education, as they've showed us time and time again, and we probably need to be respecting them for that. But some of those children, they don't yet have an education. And so if I'm splitting hairs and I'm thinking about, I don't like it so much for this reason, But if I've got to give a little bit to make sure that we put in some safeguards, extra process, and remember, even if a parent says that my child's going to go on, they still have to, for an extra year, go under a program that's going to help them get up to that level. And I just think in this instance, if there's 9 pros and cons, there's probably 5 of those are pros and 4 of those are cons. So I will cautiously support this bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 51st, Delegate Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, I generally don't get up and rise to speak on any occasion. I just speak with my button. But this one is near and dear to my heart. When this bill started out in education, I hated it. I dearly hated the bill and what it was setting out to do. But they pulled the bill back by the sponsor, the chairman, the analyst, and the State Department. They looked at what we were trying to do. It's not to hone the students back at the 3rd grade. That's what we're trying not to do. We're trying to get them to a level that they can move on. There's been a lot of talk in here. We're going to pile more up on the teachers. I would submit to you that we're actually maybe going to take some of the load off the teachers, especially the ones as they get higher up in the grade levels, that they're now getting a student that they can move forward with what they should be teaching at that level instead of trying to reinforce what they should have learned at the foundation and they didn't get it. We talk about adding more onto the teachers. Yes, there's going to be some stuff in there that the teachers may need to go back and look at how they're doing it and reinforce the way we want this program moving forward. The State Department has that ability to do it now, but they have not done it to this date. We're still continuing to send the students through. We look at higher education in this bill. It says to higher education, are we getting it done correctly on how our early elementary teachers are being taught, how they're being tested to put out into the classrooms? What are we focusing on? So we're asking higher education to re-examine how you're teaching and what you're doing for the future teachers are going to send out to us. It does something that the gentleman mentioned a while ago, parents. We're finally bringing parents into the loop. The parents are always there, but sometimes they feel for whatever reasons they don't have the ability to help. It says that we will make sure that they have the resources to do that. We're talking about $5.7 million. No, it may not be enough money. If it isn't, then I say to you we need to find that money because it'll be money that's well spent and will be cheaper in the long run. So ladies and gentlemen, for every reason you find not to vote for this bill, look around, think about it, and I think you can find 10 reasons why this bill needs to move forward. We need to start working with our students at an earlier level so we don't have the problems we do when they get older in schools, as they talked about somebody that gets into the 7th grade. They start hiding it. They may not be able to read, but they find a way to cover that up and hide it. Let's take that away. Let's move this bill forward and strong green on it.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 43rd, Delegate Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the debate we've had today and hearing and listening about why we were either for or against the bill. Like I said, I wasn't sure. I think, though, I now know where I stand. And as my friend from the 10th also mentioned, that was very concerning in committee when we talked about retaining 60% of 3rd graders if they had a deficiency in reading or math. That was terrifying. That's been fixed, but now my problem is 60% or 61, roughly, approximately, of 3rd graders have a deficiency in reading or math. We got a problem. But we also have a problem in a classroom with 25 students, 25 3rd graders. That would be 15. Out of 25, that'd be about 15 students. That would be 15 meetings the teacher would have to schedule and set up. That would be 15 extra stacks of paperwork that teacher would have to handle on top of their already overworked caseload of what they're teaching and what they're monitoring and assessing. And also in classroom management, we're having outbursts right now, and these elementary teachers are in a whole new game where we don't know how to teach a lot of these kids because of the effects of abuse and effects of adverse experiences as children. The notices would have to go out for those 15 students within 15 days, according to this bill. Like I said, I recognize we have a problem, and I would love to fix it in a heartbeat. I would love to get to work on that, but if this bill would be providing extra resources for interventionists in the classrooms or extra time for this to happen, give that third grade teacher a day so they can schedule the meetings, so they can do their notices, so they can work on interventions. I'd probably vote for it. But as it is right now, as a teacher, I can't add any more additional workload onto our already sinking ship. We're begging for help. We are. And this bill recognizes the problem, but it does not offer any help. So with that, I'm going to be voting against the bill. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 39th, Delegate Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill, I think that we've heard good arguments on both sides. We heard good arguments in the committee. And I know, like my friend over here from Cabell County, this is a tough one, but I lean toward supporting the bill. I know when it first came up in committee, I had a lot of questions. And for many of them that has been made here already. I mean, what do we do with 61% or 15 out of 25 kids in a class if we're going to hold them back? How are we going to provide the enrichment or the reinforcement back in there? And as we said, there's a allocation of money set aside to this at $5.7 million. But do the math real quick. I think we're all in here, we've got enough mathematics skills to figure out that's about $100,000 per county, or about $57,000 for each one of your 100-member districts. And so what's that? One teacher, 2 aides, or whatever to attack the problem with. So I want to support this, but I'm going to do it with the understanding that we're probably going to have to come back and fund this correctly and be able to provide the support. If not, I mean, we're creating a situation. I know as a special educator, I've been in situations, been put in a classroom and asked to teach 3 different levels or 3 different types of social studies to 4 different reading levels. And how that's possible from one educator is just not. We're asking, okay, if we hold these kids back, and that was our concern, and that's why we toiled with this bill so much up in the Education Committee. But I believe its intent is correct. I mean, we are trying to attack this problem at the early stages. Don't wait till middle school and high school and then you get a situation like I just described. Let's get it early on. And I really believe the bill that we have trying to move through to get the aides in the class in the 1st and 2nd grade is directly tied to the success of this. It's going to take both. I mean, we are really, when you push the button today, we're at a crossroads. And I can't blame you either way you vote on this, because there's good arguments on both sides. But I'm going to lean to go yes with this because we've got to do something. And we've got to start to do something on this as an educator. And let's attack it right at the beginning when it's most crucial. But let's be ready. Let's be ready to come back and visit this, because I'm not sure that $5.7 million is going to supply the enrichment, the reinforcement, and the staff that's going to take to be able to address the problem without creating a bottleneck at the 3rd and 4th grade. So for that reason, I lean toward, as I say, voting yes on this, and I appreciate everybody's concern with this, and I respect either way you go on it. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 26th, Delegate Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you a question? The old teacher in me, I like to ask questions of my students. I'd say, let me ask you this one. Who taught you to read? Think a minute. Who taught you to read? Your mother did. The teacher supplemented what your mother taught you. How many of you in this room, I bet it's higher 90s, have ever picked up a child, set it on your lap, and read them a Golden book or a Dr. Seuss book? And then that child says, again, 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 because they want to learn to read. They want to do what you can do. It's important. We, as adults, parents, teach our children to read. My mom had definitely taught me to read. You know, I taught science for a long time, and one of my favorite years was when I taught 8th grade. And I always said, as an 8th grade teacher, I had 8 different reading levels in that room. And I would say, why can't they read? And many times I looked at, you know, the socioeconomic status. If mom is spending her whole time working her butt off in a job, she doesn't have time. And that happens. We need programs that help our kids read. We definitely do. As a science teacher, it was difficult for me to throw out the jargon and the vocabulary that my kids had to have in the curriculum. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. That was in an 8th grade science book. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. That's one word. So if a kid doesn't know and, but, and, or, they're going to have a little trouble with that word. We need to help our parents. And I think this bill will do that. You know, it was when it first came out, I was such a no on this bill. And we made some changes. Well, I didn't, but changes were made. And I stood up in committee and I said, the bill's undergone a metamorphosis and I'm all for it now. And I'm still all for it. We need to help mom. We need to give mom something in this bill, somehow, some way, a resource that helps her teach those kids to read. You know, Dolly Parton's got it all right. She's got it all right. She gives all those books away. And when they get to the house, they get read to kids. A lot of times they truly get read to kids. I see some head shaking going on. And we need Dolly and others to step up and continue to put books in people's homes. When someone dies, the wife and I don't buy flowers, we buy a book. And we put that book in the library. And we know that sometime it's going to get picked up and it's going to be read to somebody, and we've made a difference. This bill is going to make a difference. Not a huge traumatic difference, as you've heard from both sides here. There are some issues. It's not perfect. But how many bills do we pass that are perfect? None. So let's at least give our teachers a tool. My daughter teaches reading. She tells me all the time, Dad, we need a tool. And that tool is phonics. Phonics, shaking your head. It's right. It is. You know, we need to go back to saying the A says and the B says ba before we get to glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So let's put some tools in mom and dad's hands. Let's put some tools in the teacher's hand. This bill is a program. God, I used to hate programs when I taught school. Another program. But if it's about reading, I'm all for it. If you can read, you can do anything. My son, bless his heart, he's seriously impaired with autism. But he can read, can he read, and he can spell, and that's important. That makes him successful. We got to help some more kids be successful. I'm a yes on the vote. I don't know how strong a yes that is, but it's a yes. It's a green light. And I'm going to ask you to put some tools in teachers' hands. And I'm going to ask you to help mom teach. What would my friend up there from Parkersburg say? Betty and Flip and whoever that was in the reading book. I can't remember the one. I think it's Flip was the dog in mine. Was it Flip? But let's help mom. Let's light the board up green, and let's help kids learn to read, and let's help them be successful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll try to be relatively brief on this. Mr. Speaker, as you know, this legislature, we're the representatives of our citizens in the state, and it's up to us to determine policy for the state. And I take that as a serious obligation as chair of your committee. Over my years, education and health seem to be two of the biggest bureaucracies in this country and in this state. More money and effort has been thrown into those without much success. We have a broken system, in my opinion, in both of those. But it's up to us to try to change that. Now, this bill has the potential to transform kindergarten through third grade in our state, if implemented, and I repeat, if implemented. If it's just code, it doesn't mean anything. But if it is implemented, it might make a big difference for these kids. As I said, I think the system's broke. That doesn't mean that we don't have good people out there trying their hardest to try to make it work. I'm sure we do. We have many of them. But the system, I guess, is the problem. Now, many of you know a lot of kids going on to college. We've had a big problem with preparation. Many of them, as has been noted already, have to take remediation. I mean, years ago, that wasn't as big a problem. I mean, kids used to get educated. Most of them went on either a higher ed or they got into a trade or did something else. Nowadays, you have kids, I'd say every single one of you here and in our gallery have probably at least once recently have run into someone, whether it be working over in one of our department stores, grocery stores, or at a restaurant on a line that they can't even figure out simple math for change. I mean, that's a little embarrassing, not only for graduates, but also for those kids already in school. Now, that's not saying all kids, but you do see it. I think every single one of us has seen it here. And that's pathetic in my opinion. Now, numerous studies have suggested that in third and fourth grade, if kids are not proficient in language and math at that point, they're doomed for failure for the most part. Doesn't mean all of them, but a lot of them are. They lose hope for the future. Their readiness for career and workforce is diminished. Many of them either drop out or undergo truancy. They also get into potential for substance abuse and also into the penal system, unfortunately. It's up to us to kind of regulate this and try to get these kids so they have a chance. Now, the introduced bill, I want to go over the metamorphosis of that. The introduced bill said that the state board will develop a program to improve reading and math in K-3, and then if they're deficient, so that they won't be deficient by grade 4. Well, we looked at what was already in code, and the committee substitute went through that change. As I mentioned, in Code 18.2E10, we have already in code a transformative system of support for early literacy and funding for it. Obviously, that's not working. Why is it not working? Are we not enforcing it? Is it something there's no accountability for? When we started, we put that into the committee substitute and added the mathematics to it. Some people felt that it was too punitive at that time. Some people felt that, well, if you get to third grade, you don't know the stuff, you shouldn't go further anyway. You got to learn the stuff. So we reevaluated these things. We looked at the wording of it. We took in all the arguments, trying to see what would be better. Now, Florida has already done something like this. They instituted that stop. Their proficiency numbers jumped up above the state, above the federal averages. They were below and went above. We've been trailing below. We've been steadily going below. Other states have done similar things. Mississippi started the same thing. They saw a jump in their proficiency scores after third to fourth grade. Now, we made a number of assumptions during the course of our committee meetings. I was taken back when I was told that they're not identifying these kids early on. I mean, some kids are being identified, but on the whole, State Department told us, no, they're not really being identified, and there's not much interventions going in, even though we had this program already in effect. The summative report, we also found out, they don't get the results until August. So looking at trying to retain kids at the end of the third year wasn't going to make a lot of sense because they'd get reported in August. Little did we know, we found out that they actually find out preliminary scores within a couple of days after the test is given. But it's not the official report until August. So we went back to the drawing board to figure out, well, how do we make this a little better? Not as punitive, but also to look at, does the teacher have a say? Does the parent have a say? Now, we also reported numbers. 2020 to 21, proficiency on the third year summary report. Math, 72% not proficient. Language arts, 60% not proficient. We were told that was because of the COVID years. All right, we'll give some slack for that because we know that did affect a lot of kids. But before COVID, 2018 to 19, 61% of kids were not proficient after the third grade in math, 54% in language arts. So definitely a significant problem. No wonder parents are looking for alternatives to their kids in those grades. 15 years ago, we did that with my son. We had all our kids in public school before. My son was in third grade. He didn't learn a darn thing in that whole year. He was going to have the same teacher for the next year. I'm not blaming the teacher. I'm blaming the system. We took him out, had him homeschooled. He's done great. I mean, those are examples of parents looking for things. They're responsible for their kids. So what do we do with this bill? The bill says K to 3. There is a multi-tiered level of support. I mentioned basic support for help, targeted support for certain areas of deficiencies, intensive support for kids that really need a lot of help. In school, after school, and during summer. Teachers get support to be able to help with this and be able to do a better job with things if they need it. Teachers in training, the same thing. Parents are notified so that they are aware of this. That way they can help. Assistance is to be provided for resources and methods for them to help and supplement for these kids. Third grade teacher gets to determine at the end of the third year whether a child should be retained or promoted. That gives the teacher a significant amount. That doesn't mean they're going to retain every kid. It just means that they're looking at these kids and saying which ones should be retained, which ones shouldn't. And then there are different levels that we have as far as exemptions that I mentioned earlier. If kids are making progress according to the support that they're getting, they'll go on. Certain kids are just not going to make it, and they're going to need the extra help, and we don't want to hold them back. But the parents have the last say. And that was important because we felt they are the main ones responsible for their children. Now, if they decide they don't want to help or do anything, well, that's on them. We still have an obligation to help train those kids and give them intensive support. But it really is up to the parent to help. And they have the last call on that. And again, the summer report, when it does come out by August of the fourth year, if kids are still deficient in different subject areas, they have to continue with support over the summer and into the fourth year until they get proficient. I think it was a very good compromise. So, Mr. Speaker, the citizens, as I mentioned, of West Virginia demand that our school system find what works. And if it doesn't work, they need to start looking at how to correct it. We've given them the tools to work with. We're giving them the different legislation to work with. We're expecting them to do so. From the legislature, this bill is a directive to the State Board of Education, county boards, and the administration of our elementary schools that they need to do their job. There's no more time for excuses. It's time for them to educate our children. And Mr. Speaker, I urge passage of the bill.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 84 ayes, 11 nays, 5 absent and not voting. The majority present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill as passed. The clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4510 to provide that third grade students be competent in reading and math before moving on to fourth grade.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect July 1st, 2022.
The lady from the 49th moves that the bill take effect July 1st, 2022. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 86 ayes, 8 nays, 6 absent and not voting. 2/3 elected having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill effective July 1st, 2022. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4516 to require medication-assisted treatment programs to have written policies concerning community relations.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 17th, Delegate Rohrbach, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The purpose of this bill is to require medication-assisted treatment facilities to establish written policies to measure the impact an existing or new program may have on a community, promote peaceful coexistence, and plan for change and program growth. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
Are there members wishing to speak to the bill? Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 37th, Delegate Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield?
Will the chairman yield? Chairman does yield.
Thank you. This would also require, this is before the center would apply for a license, they would have to come up with this written policy, correct?
The gentleman would be correct.
Okay, and then I guess it would be on OFLAC, who licensed these facilities, to check and make sure that they have this written policy, correct?
OFLAC does license our medication-assisted treatment centers. The gentleman's correct.
And this would be another requirement that they would have to get a license, correct?
The gentleman would be correct.
And they would have to put a legal ad in a newspaper?
Yes, the gentleman's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for yielding.
Are there other members seeking recognition? Gentlemen from the 17th wish to close? If not, the question before the House is passage of the bill. All those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There were 85 ayes, 5 nays, 10 absent, not voting. The majority present. I declare the bill passed. The clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4516 to require medication-assisted treatment programs to have written policies concerning community relations.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. The lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent the House stand in recess for 10 minutes.
Is there objection? If not, the House will stand in recess for 10 minutes. House will be in order. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4540 to update all retirement plans to comport with federal law.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the perfect bill to return from recess on. The bill in front of us will update all of our retirement plans to comport with federal law, and there are 4 different tenets that would comport those. Would update each retirement system as to the required beginning date to reflect changes in federal law. Current law has a required beginning date when each member attains 70.5 years of age. This bill would update this to 72 years of age if born after June 30th, 1949. Would update each retirement system as to survivor annuity benefits to reflect changes in federal law. The bill provides that if a survivor annuity benefit would exceed the applicable percentage permitted by the Internal Revenue Code, the annuity benefit would be changed to the highest survivor benefit option allowed that satisfies the Internal Revenue limitations. The bill also provides updated provisions relating to distributions from the teacher's defined contribution system. The bill changes the definition of the term employer error to include deliberate acts in violation of West Virginia Code or the Code of the State Regulations. It adds definitions of employer error to the West Virginia Municipal Police Officer and Firefighters Retirement sections, the State Police Retirement sections, the Teachers Defined Contribution sections, and the Judges Retirement sections. It also requires that if a retirant, beneficiary, or any other person who received an overpayment from the CPRB and then dies with an annuity or lump sum benefit still payable, the CPRB may offset the annuity or lump sum payment by the amount of the overpayment not yet repaid to the retirement fund. This is the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Are there members wishing to speak to passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. I see that the gentleman from the 50th seeks recognition. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield for a question?
Will chairman yield? Chairman does yield.
Thank you. Was there an advantage from changing the required beginning date when the member retains 70.5 years to, which was, I guess this bill would update this 72. Is there an advantage to that?
I don't know if there is an advantage or a disadvantage. It does make this section of the retirement plans to comport to recent changes in federal law.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there further members seeking recognition on the bill? Gentlemen wish to close? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 87 ayes, 0 nays, 13 absent, not voting. The majority present having voted in the affirmative, I do declare the bill passed. The clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4540 to update all retirement plans to comport with federal law.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4612, decreasing the time period of eligibility for non-duty disability from 10 to 5 or more years of service for municipal police officers and firefighters' retirement.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The title is very descriptive of this bill. It would amend provisions of West Virginia Code related to the West Virginia Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System. Current law provides disability benefits for non-duty related causes for a member who has at least 10 years of contributory service. The bill would reduce the required years of contributory service to 5 years. That is the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Are there members who wish to speak to passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 92 ayes, 0 nays, 8 absent and not voting. The majority present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will report the title.
House Bill 4612, decreasing the time period of eligibility for non-duty disability from 10 to 5 or more years of service for municipal police officers and firefighters' retirement.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4613, relating to increasing the multiplier for use in determining accrued benefit in the West Virginia Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 3rd, Delegate Storch, to explain the bill.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. The committee substitute for House Bill 4613 would amend provisions of the West Virginia Code relating to the West Virginia Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System. Current code provides retirement benefits for the first 20 years of services in the amount of 2.6% of the member's final average salary. The bill would change this to 2.75% of the member's final average salary. I urge passage.
Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 95 ayes, 0 nays, 5 absent not voting. A majority of delegates present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4613, relating to increasing the multiplier for use in determining accrued benefit in the West Virginia Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4614, providing optional retirement service credit for unused accrued annual or sick leave days for municipal police and firefighters.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 3rd, Delegate Storch, to explain the bill.
Thank you. The committee substitute for House Bill 4614 provides optional retirement service credit for unused accrued annual or sick leave days for municipal police and firefighters. I urge passage.
Are there members who wish to speak to passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is on passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 96 ayes, 0 nays, 4 absent not voting. A majority present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4614, providing optional retirement service credit for unused accrued annual or sick leave days for municipal police and firefighters.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4657, creating the Critical Mineral Investment Tax Credit Act of 2022.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 10th, Delegate Chris, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill encourages investment in rare earth element or critical mineral mining, processing, and product manufacturing using an income tax credit. It is largely based on the Economic Opportunity Tax Credit and the Downstream Natural Gas Manufacturing Investment Tax Credit. Eligible taxpayers are allowed a credit against the portion of their corporate net or personal income taxes that are a consequence of a qualified investment in a new or expanding mining, processing, or product manufacturing facility, provided the investment results in new jobs. The maximum allowable credit is determined by multiplying a taxpayer's qualified investment by a new jobs percentage. The qualified investment is a percentage of the cost of the product and is determined by the useful life of the investment. The credit amount will accrue over a 10-year period and can be claimed at a rate of 1/10 per taxable year for 10 years. The credit amount is allowed against 80% of the taxpayer's state tax, which is in direct result of the investment. If salaries of the new jobs are high enough, the credit is amount allowed against 100% of the tax. Unused credit may be carried forward to each following tax year until used or until the expiration at the 20th year. If the taxpayer prematurely removes a qualified investment from service, or the number of new jobs falls below the number required to qualify, there are recapture provisions. The successor business is allowed to claim the credits. The tax commissioner is authorized to promulgate rules. The effective date for the qualified investment begins on or after July 1, 2023. I urge passage.
Are there members who wish to speak to passage of the bill? Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 35th, Delegate Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Vice Chairman yield for a question or two?
Vice Chairman yield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this is for processing or severing the elements and minerals?
It is mining, processing, and production manufacturing. So there would be screening involved in that.
Okay, I haven't seen this before, so I'm sorry I'm not as up to date as I should be. Is hydrogen or carbon considered?
I don't believe so. If I remember correctly, I think it's the bottom part of the periodic table. As the teachers can tell me, shake their heads yes.
Gotcha. Is it for, what about companies that are already doing this? Like, I know we have some graphite processors in north central West Virginia.
They would be able to expand under this.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I've got. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 3rd, Delegate Fluharty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Yield, just a real quick question. Didn't we
Yes.
already do it, was it 3 years, I believe, on the severance tax related to this previously?
That's on severance. This would be on corporate or personal income.
Okay, so we're kind of double dipping again. Okay, I just want to make sure that was in the same area here. Thanks.
Are there other members who wish to speak to passage of the bill? Gentlemen wish to close? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there being 90 ayes, 6 nays, 4 absent not voting, a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4657, creating the Critical Mineral Investment Tax Credit Act of 2022.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on 3rd reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4660, establishing the status of beds when an intermediate care facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities closes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bill was advanced to third reading with the right to amend. Are there amendments?
Delegate Rohrbach moves to amend the bill.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 17th. Without objection, gentleman will explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. This amendment requires the Health Care Authority to set a policy to determine an appropriate facility to receive the beds from the closed facility. This will better enable the Health Care Authority to craft a better way to disperse the beds. That's a summary of the amendment, Mr. Speaker, and I urge adoption.
Are there others wishing to speak to the amendment? If not, the question is on the adoption of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment in third reading. Chair recognizes.
Wait. Clerk will read the bill, please.
Clerk will please read the bill a third time.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4660, establishing the status of beds when an intermediate care facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities closes.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 17th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill provides that when an intermediate care facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities permanently closes, the beds from the closed facilities will return to the Health Care Authority. The Health Care Authority may then redistribute those beds to another facility which it determines appropriate. The Health Care Authority will create a policy to determine appropriateness. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
Are there members who wish to speak to passage of the bill? Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 50th, Delegate Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chair yield for a question?
Gladly.
Can you give us some examples of the types of facilities? I mean, describe what they do, but I mean,
well,
yeah.
What this bill is doing to the gentleman is repealing the moratorium, because as we've heard testimony at LACRA and Health, there have been some really atrocious things go on in some of these homes. So, but the problem is, right now with the moratorium, it's kind of been up in the air. If we close the bed, what really happens to that bed? So this bill seeks to put clarity to what happens to the bed. And what happens to the bed under this bill is it will come back to the Health Care Authority, and then they can reallocate that bed to our better operators. So this is going to hopefully be a real tool to keep some of these bad operators out of the market or get them out of the market, but yet the services that are necessary to our IDD waivers.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 42nd, Delegate Longenecker.
Would the chair yield?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just help me understand, an existing bed comes up empty in an existing facility. Does that bed then get relocated out of that facility and can be reallocated into another facility? Or are we talking about that bed stays and we can decide who can go into that bed? Help me understand that process.
Yeah, you mean as far as who the operator is or the actual occupant of the bed?
I guess if my question then, the essence is, if we close is this talking about closing a state-owned facility?
No, these are all privately owned.
All private beds.
That's correct.
Got it. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman, continue to yield. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this would help to solve the problem as detailed last week in my comments on the floor related to those atrocities committed against people with individuals with developmental disabilities.
Gentleman would be correct.
So if we wish, it's my understanding that folks have been looking at these beds as a property interest and didn't feel that the state could remove them from them even when they killed people or sprayed them with a water hose and all those things that were in the report.
Gentleman would be correct. After we received that testimony on several committee hearings this fall, this is what this legislation seeks to prevent in the future.
Okay, and so this would allow us to directly take beds from those entities which from a systemic basis allowed these things to happen and give them to someone else.
Gentleman would be correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may speak to the bill shortly, sir.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Ladies and gents, this is a really good bill. I still strongly suggest that you read the report that I referenced in my remarks last week on the Certificate of Need bill. If certain operators continue to be able to do these things, and it's not individual, people that messed up. I mean, there were, you know what, I'll just say it right here from the floor of this House. Apparently 80% of the problems came from a company named Rest Care. And read that report. Please vote green. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members wishing to speak to passage of the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 94 ayes, 0 nays, 6 absent and not voting. A majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4660, establishing the status of beds when an intermediate care facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities closes.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
Lady from the 49th moves that the bill take effect from passage. All those in favor of the lady's motion will signify by saying aye, or will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. The yeas are 94, the nays are 0, 6 absent, 2/3 elected having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4662, relating to licensure of Head Start facilities in this state.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 17th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill deems Head Start facilities to be licensed child care facilities in this state. This will enable a Head Start facility to use the CARES system to perform criminal background checks on its employees. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
Are there members wishing to speak to passage of the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 94 ayes, 0 nays, 6 absent. A majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4662, relating to licensure of Head Start facilities in this state.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I move the bill take effect from passage.
Lady from the 49th moves that the bill take effect from passage. Those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this motion, there are 95 ayes, 0 nays, 5 absent and not voting. 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4827, relating to the promotion and development of public use vertiports.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 35th to explain the 32nd to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill begins state regulation of vertiports, which are areas designated and designed specifically for advanced air mobility aircraft to take off and land, which, like a helicopter, is a designated area for helicopters. It requires vertiports comply with any FAA rule containing standards for vertiport design and performance characteristics, and that a vertiport plan must be reviewed. It holds that a political subdivision of this state shall not exercise its zoning and land use authority to grant or permit an exclusive right to one or more vertiport owners or operators, and shall use such authority to promote reasonable access to public use vertiports. Finally, it requires all state laws must be harmonious with the applicable federal law and regulation. That's a summary, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
Are there other members seeking to be recognized on passage of the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 91 ayes, 4 nays, 5 absent not voting. A majority present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will report the title.
House Bill 4827, relating to the promotion and development of public use vertiports.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I move the bill take effect from passage.
The lady from the 49th moves that the bill take effect from passage. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 92 ayes, 3 nays, 5 absent not voting. 2/3 of those elected having voted into affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 419, establishing pilot project to evaluate impact of certain post-substance use disorder residential treatments.
Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to postpone action one day.
Is there objection? Chair hears no objection. Action on committee substitute for Senate Bill 419 will be postponed one day. Further bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2733, relating to the establishment of a combat action badge and combat action ribbon special registration plates.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2838, authorize the ordering and of restitution to the state for reimbursement of costs incurred for misuse of public funds and to create the state auditor's public integrity and fraud fund for use of said funds.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4012, prohibiting the showing of proof of a COVID-19 vaccination.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Lovejoy and Pushkin move to amend the bill.
Does one of the sponsors wish to explain the bill? Gentleman, ask unanimous consent to explain the bill in lieu of having been read.
Yes,
Gentleman
Mr.
from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very narrow exception that protects, many of us have locally owned facilities that are leased out to private entities. That's the key phrase here. So what it does is it adds a proviso that it does not apply to local government-owned facilities that are leased to a private entity where the local government unit simply serves as a property owner getting rent. Think, for instance, municipal auditorium has a concert, and let's say that that artist has something in the contract that says, you know, they require this. This would allow our municipal auditorium, civic centers, and other buildings to continue to do business with them. They don't have to book these folks, and you don't have to go to the concert, but we hate to exclude a raft of potential business by applying this to private business. So that's the amendment.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 32nd, Delegate Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would rise in support of the gentleman's amendment. When one leases a parcel of real estate, they in essence become the owner. They stand in the shoes of the owner as the lessee. They have the rights to that property unless there's some exclusion in the lease agreement otherwise. And this would allow one who is paying the funds to lease a building to be able to make the rules on how their function is to be carried out. And for those reasons, I don't believe this does any harm to the bill, and so would not object and urge adoption.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? If not, the question is, does the gentleman wish to close? If not, the question is, shall the amendment be adopted? All those in favor of adoption of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? No. Noes appear to have it. Roll call has been demanded. Is the demand sustained? The demand is sustained. So the question is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will signify by saying aye or by voting aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 61 ayes, 32 nays, 7 absent, not voting. A majority of those present having voted in the affirmative declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment and third reading.
House Bill 4064, allowing antique car license plates for cars over 10,000 pounds.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4071, mask and quarantine option for parents and faculty.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill would be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4089, requires certain coverage and reimbursement for a person diagnosed with hypertension.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4285, relating to real estate appraiser licensing board requirements.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill would be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4317, relating to health insurance for living organ donors.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill would be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4377 to update the involuntary commitment process.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Rohrbach moves to amend the bill.
Gentleman from the 17th asks unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having been read.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No objection. Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment clarifies an amendment made in the judiciary which clarified that the hearing and evaluation for involuntary commitment be held in person unless, to prevent unreasonable delay, the hearing or evaluation may be held electronically. That's a summary of the amendment, Mr. Speaker, and I urge adoption.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the amendment? If Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 51st, Delegate Fleischauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can you just explain?
Will gentleman yield?
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you very much. Can you just explain what the change is? Is it a grammatical change? It doesn't seem like it changes the content very much.
It's a grammatical change from what they did in judiciary. This just cleans up the grammar just a bit.
So the default is an in-person hearing?
That the gentlelady is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? If not, the question is, shall the amendment be adopted? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment and third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4393 to increase the managed care tax if the managed care organization receives a rate increase.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4441, creating a Class M air rifle stamp.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4450, removing the 50-cent fee charged and deposited in the combined voter registration and driver's licensing fund for each driver's license issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4466, relating to School Building Authority's review of school bond applications.
Delegate Barnhart. It's with. Okay. So. Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4482, relating to removing the statutory limit of $300,000 for the Environmental Laboratory Certification Fund.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4499, relating to making the procurement process more efficient by modifying and updating outdated processes and requirements.
Are there amendments? The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4502, establishing the Build WV Act.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Young moves to amend the bill.
Delegate Young asks unanimous consent to explain the bill in lieu of having it been read or having it read. Are there objections? Chair Heredone's gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Build West Virginia Act is a program that will allow for developers to build housing developments. It's a good bill, and so what it does is it set up some districts, 12 districts within the state, and within those districts there will be different projects that are either approved or denied. The bill is about support for middle-income housing and middle-market housing. What the amendment does, I want to make sure that we're doing that, right? I don't want us to be building giant mansions for free for people in places where we don't need them. This is meant for building houses around Nucor or around Procter & Gamble, projects that people need housing and they need appropriate housing. So all this amendment amendment does is, it's on page 20. It's during the certification of the project, the eligibility and the evaluation. There's currently 10 criteria. This just adds an 11th that says that the proposed demonstration meets the immediate and future needs of the area. So just that the project fits the needs of the district. I spoke with Tourism and Commerce. They're both on board. This doesn't hurt the intent of the bill. I just want to make sure we're getting it right. So hope you'll support it.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 64th Delegate Householder.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentlelady's amendment does add more clarity to the bill. It does no harm, so I do urge adoption.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? If not, the question is on adoption of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment and third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4511 to make numerous amendments to modernize and increase efficiencies in the administration of the West Virginia Unclaimed Property Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4553 to clarify the application of zoning requirements to exempt wholesale generators.
Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to advance to third reading with the amendments pending.
Lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent to advance the bill to third reading with the amendments pending. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The bill will be advanced to third reading with the amendments pending.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4560 relating generally to motor vehicle dealers, distributors, wholesalers, and manufacturers.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4563 provide for a license plate for auto mechanics.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4570 to allow veterinary telehealth in West Virginia with out-of-state providers.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Dean moves to amend the bill.
Gentleman from the 21st asks unanimous consent to explain his amendment in lieu of having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Working with the West Virginia Veterinary Association after the bill came out of committee, they had some proposed changes, and that's what these are. I'll do the highlights. It requires an in-person visit 12 months before or 12 months after the telehealth consultation to still be eligible to receive those services. It does have a proviso that if there's immediate danger or immediate threat of life-threatening event, telehealth can be utilized from any vet in the state or out of the state. And then it also specifies that the standard of care for telehealth shall be the same as in-person care. There's a few other changes in there, but they're all technical. Thank you.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 38th, Delegate Graves.
Would the gentleman yield for question?
Gentleman yield. Sure, gentleman yields.
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand properly. So with your amendment, if it were to pass, are we enacting a stricter protocol for a telehealth visit for an animal than we do for people?
Seems that way.
Thank you.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? Gentlemen wish to close? If not, the question is on the adoption of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment and third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4600, making it a felony for a person in a position of trust to assault, batter, or verbally abuse a child or neglect to report abuse they witness.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Fluharty moves to amend the bill.
Gentleman from the 3rd asks unanimous consent to explain his amendment in lieu of having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Trying to make a good bill better. This amendment...
Gentleman will suspend. Point of order. Gentlelady from the... Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment applies to children who are disabled and young children if they are faced with the horrors of abuse and neglect. And it would instruct that a county school board cannot allow permission for a child to be removed from the school district if there's a pending CPS report, or a pending investigation, I should say, to abuse and neglect, and if there is a past conviction related to domestic violence and abuse and neglect. That's the amendment.
Are there others desiring to speak to the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentlelady from the 24th, Delegate Misaki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Given that the amendment deals exclusively with Chapter 18 dealing with education, and my bill deals with exclusively Chapter 61, which is dealing with criminal provisions, I wonder if the amendment is germane.
House will be at ease. The House will be in order. The gentlelady's objection is well taken. The amendment is not in order. It is not germane. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to engrossment and third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4608 to require the State Fire Commission to propose minimum standards for persons to be certified as probationary status volunteer firefighters.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4616 remove sales tax on gun safes and certain firearm safety devices.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4642 relating to pecuniary interests of county and district officers, teachers, and school officials in contracts.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4647 relating to the Board of Funeral Service Examiners.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4688 relating to Emergency Medical Services Retirement System Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4692 to revise the West Virginia Tax Increment Financing Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4753 prohibiting locating certain homeless facilities near schools or certain daycares.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4756 relating to authorizing municipalities to create pension funding programs to reduce the unfunded liability of certain pension and relief funds.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4778 permit banks to transact business with any one or more fiduciaries on multiple fiduciary accounts.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4779 permit banks the discretion to choose whether to receive deposits from other banks, savings banks, or savings and loan associations when arranging for the redeposit of county, municipal, and state funds.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4787, creating the Highly Automated Motor Vehicle Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4794, requiring counties provide fiscal information for state auditors' West Virginia checkbook website.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4829, modifying definitions of certain school cafeteria personnel.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
Senate Bill 499, authorizing legislative rules for school building authority.
Bill will be advanced.
House Joint Resolution 104, providing term limits for certain constitutional officers.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2300, including family court judges in the judges' retirement system.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2751, modernize the process for dissolution of municipal corporations in this state.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3073, relating to the West Virginia Emergency School Food Act.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4001, generally relating to broadband.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4020, relating to reorganizing the Department of Health and Human Resources.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4021, relating to the Medical Student Loan Program.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4050, defining terms related to livestock.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4066, Distracted Driving Act.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4293, prohibiting mass mailing of absentee ballots.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4320, relating to natural immunity or antibodies to any illness to be treated as equal or better to vaccine-induced immunity.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4336, providing for the valuation of natural resources property.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4353, relating to on-cycle elections, Voter Turnout Act.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4370, clarifying that the statewide interoperability executive committee is responsible to develop, update, and implement policies regarding the statewide interoperable radio network.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4373, to exclude fentanyl test strips from the definition of drug paraphernalia.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4439, creating a special revenue account known as the Military Authority Federal Matching Grant Fund.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4463, to increase the compensation members of the State Athletic Commission may receive for their attendance and participation in the Commission's public meetings.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4467, requiring early childhood classroom assistant teacher in certain grade levels and enrollment levels in said grade levels.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4497, relating to the repeal of the article governing the Regional Jail and Correctional Facility Authority Board.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4565, to exempt temporary employees and employees of the Higher Education Policy Commission from automatic enrollment in the state's 457B plan.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4571, modifying foundation allowance to account for transportation by electric-powered buses.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4580, to authorize retired bus operators, cooks, or aides to work in areas of critical need.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4623, Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4629, relating to procedures for certain actions against the state.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4826, relating to esports.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4840, relating to Office of Minors Health.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4842, relating to obscene manner to minors.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4843, relating to locality pay for correctional officers.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4844, relating to public school personnel.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4845, establishing the Katherine Johnson Academy.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4846, relating to flying under the influence and other aviation offenses.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4847, relating to missing persons generally.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4848, relating to non-intoxicating beer.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4849, relating to bankruptcy.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. The lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegates Howell, Jennings, and the Speaker.
Without objection, the leaves will be granted. Introductions of guests. Miscellaneous business. If not, lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 9 a.m. March 1st, 2022.
The lady from the 49th moves that pending announcements that the House will stand in recess until, or will adjourn until 9 a.m. on tomorrow. Are there announcements?
Yes.
Gentlelady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 8:45 tomorrow behind the chamber, 8:45 a.m.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 22nd, Delegate Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Infrastructure and Technology will meet at 3:45 in the Judiciary meeting room, or right after the Judiciary meeting. Also, the Subcommittee on Bridge naming resolutions will meet in my office immediately after session in room 212E. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 21st, Delegate Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committees on Agriculture and Natural Resources will meet today, immediately following floor session in the Government or Committee room. The agenda has been posted.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th, Delegate Gearhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Pensions and Retirement will meet today at 3 p.m. in the House Finance Committee room. The agenda is posted.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 32nd, Delegate Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet this afternoon at 3 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda has been posted.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 51st, Delegate Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 4 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted. The Republican members of the committee will caucus at 3:30 in the chairman's office.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 15th, Delegate Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room, and the agenda is posted. And Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Organization will host a public hearing today at 6 p.m. in the House chamber regarding House Bill 4840. Those wishing to speak can sign up beginning at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 10th, Delegate Kelly.
on Energy and Manufacturing will meet tomorrow in the Judiciary Committee room at 2 p.m. The agenda will be posted.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 35th, Delegate Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll have another Tech Caucus meeting on Thursday, the 3rd at noon in the Judiciary Room. This is going to be a combined meeting with the Tech Caucus and the Broadband Caucus to learn about airband and broadband. Lunch will be provided. That's Thursday at noon upstairs in the Judiciary Room. I'll announce again. Thanks.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 11th, Delegate Keaton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Freshman caucus for the Republicans tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in the House Education Committee room. Gov.org Committee room, I've just been reliably informed. So 8 a.m. tomorrow in the Government Organization Committee room. Thank you all.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 67th, Delegate Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic members of the Education Committee will caucus in the chairman's office, the minority chairman's office, room 258 at 3:30. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question is on the motion that the House adjourn until 9 a.m. on tomorrow. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We stand adjourned.